And as the FBI was reportedly looking into allegations that Carl Nelson had allegedly committed real estate-related financial crimes, the agency seized nearly $1 million from him and his wife's assets. The losses forced the Nelsons and their 4 daughters to sell their house, their car, liquidate the at least one retirement fund, and move into his wife's sister's basement. So the question tonight, is it legal? Our legal eagles here to debate. Data privacy specialist attorney Sarah Gounder and host of the Nothing But the Truth podcast, criminal defense attorney David Bruno. Great to have you both back with us.
Hello, Hi, Shannon. Thank you for having us.
So it's been years into this. There have been no criminal charges yet. There are some civil cases, but as we wait, the family has negotiated. Part of that money has come back from the government because they said they needed it to pay legal fees to fight all of these, allegations and to try to get their money back. A statement from Amy and Carl Nelson's attorney says this: it's been devastating financially and emotionally. The government has seized not only Carl's money, but also money that Amy independently earned. So, David, how does this work? She was an attorney. She started a workspace company, and some of the money was taken from her.
Sure. This action was brought forth by the United States Attorney's Office, and it's a civil action. So it's different from criminal, and criminal has a higher standard. It's proof beyond a reasonable doubt in the criminal sector, and in the civil, it's preponderance of the evidence. So the United States Attorney files a complaint, and then the defendants have to file answers, and then there's discovery, much like a personal injury case, where people have to be deposed and give interrogatories and things like that. Very, very dangerous for somebody who the United States Attorney says has criminal activity. Now, it's different. Again, it tees them up, unfortunately, for possible depositions under oath. And it's really against rule number 1 in criminal defense: do not give statements. So he's put in a really, really tough spot there when the United States Attorney tries to forfeit. And unfortunately for this individual and many out there, this action for forfeiture can come in the civil context before an indictment, after an indictment, or when no indictment is filed ever. Because it's a lower standard and it's preponderance of the evidence, unlike the higher standard, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, they could still bring forth forfeiture actions with the appropriate nexus to criminality.
So, Sarah, I mean, for a lot of people, when their assets are taken, they need money to have, to fight, to be able to fund an attorney, to be able to fight back. So this puts them in a very precarious position, whether they're innocent or guilty. And this is before any guilt has been proved in a court of law. The very assets they need to defend themselves, they may not be able to get their hands on.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Shannon. So there's a question of whether this is legal, and there's also a question of whether this is actually fair. You look at this poor family and how their whole world has been turned upside down just to end up in a settlement where they have gotten more than half of their assets back. And then also, when this happens, there is an act of intimidation here where they take away all your assets and then they tell you, oh, you have to defend yourself. Well, how do you defend yourself? You can't afford an attorney now.
Yeah, so that, I mean, David, I'm sure you've seen clients and people be stuck in that very position. Now, Carl Nelson has denied the allegations against him. The allegations was a whistleblower stepped up and actually went to Jeff Bezos at Amazon, where Carl Nelson was apparently doing some real estate work with them, and said, hey, this guy's ripping you off. He's scamming you. He denies all of it. But now this family's in limbo for, 2-3 years at this point. What happens next?
Hey, look, this story is not over yet, because he's still within the statute of limitations for a criminal action to be brought. And these federal investigations, they take time. I have a number of federal investigations, white-collar investigations going on that have taken a lot of time, still no charges, but we're still within the statute of limitations. So this individual is still within the statute of limitations. He still could have charges brought. And oftentimes, when individuals defend these actions in the civil forfeiture or the civil actions for money, they take the stand, they do depositions, and those depositions, those transcripts go right to the United States Attorney's Office and the prosecuting attorneys to review, to determine whether or not they've opened their mouth and they've admitted to criminal conduct. So this is a very, very difficult spot to be in when you have forfeiture, civil actions, and also a target in a criminal investigation.
Well, and we'll follow this case, but this is becoming an increasingly interesting conversation about cars, bank accounts, safety deposit boxes, all kinds of things being seized before a criminal indictment. Sarah and David, thank you both very much.
Thanks,
Always
Shannon.
a pleasure, Shannon.
And some good news before we say